No one in Maple Hollow took the rules of the community pool more seriously than Gertie Quibble. Self-anointed guardian of the Maple Hollow Community Association, MHCA, Gertie patrolled the deck armed with two things, a laminated copy of the bylaws and a voice pitched perfectly to pierce sunscreen-coated eardrums. The July afternoon seemed ordinary, until a newcomer in an emerald green one-piece drifted across the water on a gigantic teal swan float. Her name was Dr. Celine Monroe, oceanographer, newly arrived to town, and radiating the sort of calm usually reserved for meditation gurus. To Gertie, that calm looked suspiciously like rule-breaking joy. "Excuse me," Gertie chirped, sandals slapping tile. "I don't believe we've met." Celine paddled the swan toward the ladder, unfazed. "Lovely day, isn't it? I'm Celine Monroe, I just bought the Birchwood Lane cottage." Gertie's smile froze. "Monroe. I don't recall that surname on the resident roster." "And that flotation device," she tapped her clipboard, "exceeds regulation dimensions. Article 2C, inflatables larger than a small terrier are prohibited." Celine's gaze drifted to her enormous swan, then back to Gertie with a polite blink. "A small terrier, you say? The bylaws are precise." Gertie heard sarcasm and doubled down. "As president of the MHCA, I must verify your residency. Driver's license, deed, utility bill, take your pick." Celine removed her sunglasses. "Is that truly necessary? A friendly hello usually does the trick." Gertie's cheeks mottled crimson. Years of rule enforcing had forged her identity, leniency felt like heresy. "Absolutely necessary. Unauthorized swimmers jeopardize property values and," she searched for menace, "community cohesion." Celine's patience thinned. "Very well. If you feel obliged, summon the proper authorities." Triumph flashed in Gertie's eyes. She yanked her phone from a crocheted tote, thumbs trembling with righteous purpose. "Officer Ortega will set this straight." Float anchored, Celine sipped lemonade from a reusable cup while spectators abandoned their novels to witness the showdown. Whispered bets flew, clipboard or swan, which would sink first. Minutes later, the hush broke under the crunch of gravel as a patrol car arrived. Officer Malik Ortega, Maple Hollow's peacekeeper and reluctant referee of HOA scuffles, stepped out. He recognized Gertie immediately. She was the reason he'd memorized the difference between marigold and dandelion. "All right, Mrs. Quibble," he sighed, approaching the water's edge. "What's today's emergency?" Gertie thrust a finger at Celine. "Trespasser. Illegal avian-themed inflatable. Possible threat to," Officer Ortega raised a hand. "Ma'am, may I see ID?" Celine produced her license. Ortega's eyebrows shot up. "Dr. Celine Monroe? From the Coastal Research Institute?" "That's me," she said, unfurling a property deed. "Closed on Birchwood 2 weeks ago." Ortega turned back to Gertie, lips twitching. "Everything checks out. As for the swan, I'll note the size discrepancy for the pool committee, but I see no criminal offense." Gertie's protest sputtered into silence, nearby sunbathers snickered. Celine offered a gracious smile. "Perhaps, Mrs. Quibble, we can revisit the terrier equation over iced tea." But Gertie Quibble, dethroned yet defiant, could only manage a strangled "we'll see," before storming toward the exit, clipboard clacking like retreating castanets. The first ripple of change had hit Maple Hollow, carried on the broad teal wings of a swan. The morning after the pool incident, Maple Hollow's internal message board exploded. Subject lines ranged from "Teal Swan or Tyranny," to "Did Gertie finally meet her match?" Click counts soared, popcorn emojis multiplied. Even Mr. Davenport, who hadn't posted since the Great Mulch debate, chimed in with "About time." Meanwhile, inside her pastel yellow colonial, Gertie Quibble plotted revenge. She reread the bylaws, her "scripture of suburbia," searching for clauses to corner the newcomer. Section 7A caught her eye, all resident information must be registered with the MHCA within 10 days of closing on property. Aha! Celine closed 2 weeks ago. Clipboard in hand, Gertie drafted a violation notice so verbose it required a staple. She slid it into Celine's mailbox precisely at 6 a.m., confident victory would sprout like crabgrass. Celine discovered the letter while watering hydrangeas. She read every exclamation-pointed sentence, then exhaled a slow, measured laugh. Clearly, paperwork, not pistols, was Gertie's weapon of choice. That same afternoon Celine walked to the MHCA office, where Jacob Whittle, the mild-mannered secretary, sat amidst filing cabinets. "Morning, Jacob," she began, producing forms, deed copy, utility bill, driver's license. "Could you confirm I'm properly registered?" Jacob scanned a computer screen. "Yes, Dr. Monroe. Your realtor submitted everything on closing day." Celine smiled. "Would you mind printing that confirmation?" He obliged. She folded the document, slid it into an envelope, and added a handwritten note, "Dear Mrs. Quibble, in compliance with Section 7A, please find proof of my timely registration. Warm regards, Celine Monroe." She placed the envelope on Gertie's porch beside a small potted basil, olive branch and subtle jab in one package. But Gertie interpreted basil as mutiny. She marched straight to the MHCA board, demanding an emergency session. Only 4 of 7 directors attended, the others pleaded dentist appointments, suspiciously simultaneous. Gertie opened with a scathing recap of Swangate, waving Celine's basil like evidence. She proposed 3 critical actions: reinstate strict inflatable size verification at pool entrance. Mandate personal guest logs with HOA officer signatures. Impose a $250 fine for any resident obstructing enforcement. Jacob, taking minutes, nearly swallowed his pen. The directors exchanged glances. Finally Ruthie Hale, treasurer and veteran of Gertie's power plays, cleared her throat. "Gertrude, perhaps we should invite Dr. Monroe to discuss community engagement before altering penalties." Gertie's nostrils flared. "Invite her. She rides a bird the size of a sedan." "Which, as Officer Ortega noted, is not a crime," Ruthie countered. The debate devolved into semantics of Swan versus Terrier. Unable to secure majority support, Gertie adjourned, declaring, "I will bring irrefutable evidence next meeting." Word spread. Residents began staging splash-ins, arriving at the pool with quirky floats, kiwi slices, intergalactic donuts, a rubber narwhal. The spectacle resembled a Cartoon Network regatta, much to children's delight and Gertie's horror. Officer Ortega visited twice that week, summoned by noise complaints. Each time he confirmed everyone was a resident and departed with a shrug. The second visit ended with Duke Grimshaw handing him a pineapple float as thanks for not ruining the vibe. Gertie finally called her trump card, a community standards reaffirmation forum, set for Friday evening in the clubhouse. She distributed flyers promising clarity and order. Celine RSVP'd, intrigued. The clubhouse filled. Folding chairs squeaked, lemonade dispensers gurgled. On stage, Gertie unfurled a projector slideshow titled, "Preserving Maple Hollow's Dignity." Slide 1, a terrier silhouette next to an ominous swan outline. Laughter rippled. "Order, please." Gertie barked. Celine raised a hand. "May I present alternate data?" Murmurs of, "Let her speak," cascaded. Reluctantly, Gertie ceded the podium. Celine connected a laptop. Her presentation, Community Vibrancy and Shared Spaces, opened with photos of diverse floats, children grinning, seniors lounging without anxiety. She cited studies linking recreational variety to higher resident satisfaction and, ironically, increased property values. Ruthie leaned forward, impressed. Jacob whispered, "We need her on the board." Celine concluded, "Rules exist to support well-being, not stifle harmless joy. I propose a committee to modernize the bylaws with resident input." Applause thundered. Gertie's face reddened, but she forced a smile, sensing momentum slip like water off vinyl. She adjourned, vowing a formal vote, but Maple Hollow's tide had shifted. Outside, beneath string lights, neighbors approached Celine with handshake after handshake. Someone placed a teal swan sticker on her lapel. She laughed, accepting the unofficial crest of a growing movement. And behind curtained clubhouse windows, Gertie Quibble plotted her next, and perhaps final, defense of beige order. Friday's forum lit a fuse, Monday's HOA meeting detonated it. Gertie arrived early, arranging chairs into rigid rows. She'd donned her most intimidating blazer, taupe with epaulets like a drill instructor's, and clutched a stack of proxy votes collected from apathetic residents. Tonight, she'd crush opposition with procedure. But Maple Hollow showed up in record numbers. Families stood along walls, neon floats tucked under arms like protest signs. Officer Ortega provided crowd control, sipping iced coffee. The man preferred ringside seats to refereeing. Ruthie called the meeting to order. First agenda item, Gertie's emergency amendments. Gertie launched into a speech about threats to uniformity. Slide after slide displayed blurry photos, floats, mismatched flowerpots, even a house painted cheerful coral. Gasps came not from scandal but from stifled chuckles. Celine, sitting front row, waited. When Gertie finished, Ruthie opened the floor. Hands shot up. Mrs. Davenport, why can't my grandkids bring an avocado float? They adore guac. Mr. Singh, if color is a crime, arrest my tulips. Teenager Maya Lopez waved a donut tube overhead. We're literally just having fun. Gertie's epaulets drooped. Ruthie nodded to Celine. Dr. Monroe, your proposal. Celine stood. I move to form an ad hoc bylaw revision committee to examine and modernize regulations, with elections for new leadership as necessary. She paused. And I volunteer as chair. Applause thundered. Gertie tried to raise her hand, procedural objection, but Jacob, parliamentary guidebook in hand, noted majority vocal support. Ruthie called for a formal vote on committee formation. Ballots circulated. Gertie's proxy stack dwindled as residents reclaimed their votes. Final tally, 92 for, 11 against. Committee approved. Next came nominations for interim HOA president pending bylaw review. Jacob read names, Ruthie Hale, Celine Monroe, and, unexpected, Officer Malik Ortega, nominated by Duke for keeping it chill. Ortega declined diplomatically. Celine addressed the room. I accept the nomination and, if elected, pledge transparency, inclusivity, and the occasional pool party. Gertie nominated herself with a trembling voice, experience matters. Ballots again. Tension thick enough to float a swan. Result, Celine Monroe, 68 votes, Ruthie, 30, Gertie, 5, silence followed, then cheers. Gertie's clipboard slipped from numb fingers. Celine approached, hand extended. Mrs. Quibble, I hope you'll serve as historical advisor. The gesture stunned Gertie. She managed a stiff nod. We'll discuss. Meeting adjourned amid jubilation. Outside, a full moon mirrored in the pool, where someone set afloat a miniature teal swan glowing with LED lights. Children squealed. Adults clinked plastic cups. Gertie lingered on the clubhouse steps. Officer Ortega joined her. Rough night? She sighed. They've traded order for chaos. Or maybe for community, he offered gently. Worth thinking about. He strolled away, leaving Gertie staring at the moonlit water. For the first time, she wondered if serenity required sameness, or if vibrancy could be just as safe. President Monroe's first decree, Swan Soiree, a pool celebration to unveil draft bylaw revisions and, importantly, prove fun and order could coexist. Flyers decorated mailboxes, watercolor swans, fonts dripping with whimsy. Gertie scoffed but secretly read every word. She'd expected pandemonium, instead she found bullet points, float safety zones, decibel limits for music, sign-up sheets for pool monitors. It wasn't chaos, it was structured fun. On soiree day, scented torches flickered, a steel pan duo played breezy chords, and tables offered lemonade, sparkling water, and cucumber tea sandwiches, Gertie's personal weakness. Celine greeted arrivals in a turquoise sundress, clipboardless, radiating unforced confidence. "Mrs. Quibble." She waved Gertie over. "Would you judge our most creative float contest? Your eye for detail is legendary." Flattery melted Gertie's resistance. She inspected entries, a cherry pie slice, a majestic orca, and an inflatable library complete with tiny book graphics. She awarded first prize to Evelyn Clark's Rainbow Unicorn/Garden Planter Hybrid because multifunctional decor deserves recognition. When evening cooled, Celine tapped a mic. "Draft revisions are posted by the snack bar. Please annotate with suggestions." Gertie, expecting anarchy, watched residents queue politely, highlighting phrases, adding sticky notes. Duke Grimshaw affixed a gummy bear to signify approval, unorthodox but endearing. Officer Ortega roamed in casual shorts, ensuring no glass bottles slipped through. He paused by Gertie, offering her a sandwich. "Good turnout." She nodded. No towels on chairs, no diving in shallow end, people followed rules. "Maybe they just needed rules that made sense," he said. She chewed thoughtfully. As dusk deepened, Celine unveiled surprise fireworks, silent, colorburst shells designed for neighborhoods. Blue swans shimmered overhead, gold sparkles rained softly. The crowd oohed. Gertie felt tears blur her vision, whether from beauty or reluctant admiration, she couldn't tell. Later, helping fold chairs, Gertie confessed to Celine, "I may have over-applied certain policies." Celine smiled gently. "Guarding standards is admirable. But so is adapting. A truce settled like evening dew, fragile yet genuine." Autumn draped Maple Hollow in amber. Gertie devoted mornings to her prized rose beds, 50 varieties pruned with surgeon precision. One crisp Tuesday, she discovered a note tucked beside a blooming Lady Esme, magnificent pruning. "Would love to exchange gardening tips. M.O." Attached, a single sunflower. M.O. She puzzled until a patrol car slowed at the curb. Officer Ortega, off-duty in jeans, stepped out carrying mulch bags. "Thought your soil could use compost boost," he said. Gertie, flustered, muttered thanks. They spent an hour spreading mulch and discussing aphid control. Malik's laughter warmed the autumn chill. These visits multiplied, coffee left on her porch, seed packets exchanged. Residents whispered, delighted. Gertie protested she was far too busy, yet her smile lingered long after Malik drove away. Meanwhile, the bylaw committee finalized reforms, color-friendly exterior palette, flexible holiday decor timeline, and a float-size guideline replaced by safe usage and line-of-sight rule. At the ratification meeting, Gertie cast an aye vote. Afterward, Malik asked her to dinner at the Juniper Bistro. Gertie nearly declined, but Celine's encouraging wink dissolved excuses. Over herb-roasted chicken, Malik confessed he'd long admired her roses, and her dedication, even if misdirected. Gertie admitted she'd mistaken rigidity for respect. Dessert was lavender creme brulee, conversation bloomed like spring. By evening's end, they scheduled another date. This time, pumpkin patch stroll. As romance blossomed, Gertie's edges softened. She laughed when Duke stuck googly eyes on the mailbox. She approved a neighbor's sky-blue door with only minor hesitation. She even joined Celine's book club, critiquing mysteries with razor wit that now cut playfully rather than to wound. Yet whispers of wedding bells shocked her, until Malik, beneath winter twinkle lights, knelt beside the rose arbor, ring glimmering. "Gertrude Quibble, plant a life with me?" Her answer, an uncharacteristically loud yes. Spring returned with floral exuberance, and wedding invitations shaped like seed packets. Malik and Gertrude, let love bloom. Celine offered the community center free of charge, suggesting a Swan meets Rose theme. Gertie hesitated at first. No teal, she warned. Day of, the center transformed, tables draped in blush linen, centerpieces mixing ivory roses and origami swans. A string quartet played soft jazz. Officer Ortega, resplendent in navy suit, waited at a wisteria-draped arch. Gertie arrived in a champagne gown accented by a single teal ribbon, her quiet nod to compromise. Guests gasped at her radiant smile. Celine officiated, words weaving humor and heart. Once, Gertrude defended order above all. Now she and Malik show us love is the finest order. Vows exchanged, rings slipped, applause cascaded. Duke cried openly, Ruthie dabbed eyes with napkin. Reception highlights, float parade, children glided miniature swans along a kiddie pool aisle. Rose petal toss, Gertie insisted petals be uniform size, Malik winked and tossed handfuls anyway. Cake, 3 tiers, iced in amber teal rose with sugar swan topper pecking a sugar rose. As evening mellowed, Celine pulled Gertie aside. There's one last gift. She gestured outside, where a crane lifted a shrouded sculpture beside the newly built community reflection garden. Fabric fell, revealing the Wonderbird. A 12-foot stainless steel swan whose wings bore carved rose patterns, LEDs ready to glow at night. A plaque read, in honor of Gertrude Quibble's commitment to growth and grace. Gertie's breath hitched. It's magnificent. Celine squeezed her hand. Funded by a state arts grant. Maple Hollow's new landmark. Tears, laughter, camera flashes, the Wonderbird became Maple Hollow's selfie magnet before the band even played the first dance. Summer tourists soon detoured to Maple Hollow for Wonderbird selfies, boosting local cafes. The HOA monetized guided evening light shows, proceeds funding playground upgrades. Gertie, unexpected celebrity, posed for photos among roses, autographing seed packets. Yet success bred scrutiny. A regional blog dubbed the Wonderbird kitschy. A rival HOA mocked Maple Hollow's inflatable anarchy. Celine responded by hosting an inter-neighborhood color carnival, inviting nearby communities to showcase creative decor. Skeptics arrived curious and left inspired, ordering bulk floats online. Meanwhile, Gertie launched Roses and Rules, a monthly column balancing gardening advice with gentle bylaw reminders, tone-friendly, paragraphs concise. Readers loved it, subscription clicks rose. One hiccup, a prankster floated a 20-foot inflatable dragon in the pool at dawn. Lifeguards panicked. Gertie, first on scene, assessed and decided it posed no danger. She allowed 1 hour of dragon selfies before orderly removal. The internet hailed her flexibility. The prankster, Teen Maya, apologized via dragon-themed thank you card. Malik and Gertie's home became the garden party epicenter. Their joint project, a public mini-rose maze installed beside the Wonderbird. Grand opening featured kids playing hide-and-seek while adults savored rose-infused lemonade. During a council meeting, Ruthie announced Maple Hollow ranked top 10 in the state's Neighborhoods to Love list. Applause thundered. Gertie blushed, remembering when beige fences defined her world. That night, Malik and Gertie walked the quiet streets. LED feathers shimmered on the Wonderbird. Hard to believe, she whispered, all this from a teal swan. Malik kissed her forehead. Chaos can be the best fertilizer. 1 full year after Swangate, Maple Hollow gathered for the Evening of Lights, a celebration of growth, color, and compromise. Children balanced on pool floats beneath gentle spotlights, seniors tapped toes to live bossa nova. Gertie stood at the garden entrance, inhaling rose scent mingled with barbecue smoke. She wore a teal shawl, her favorite color now, though she'd never admit it aloud. Nearby, Celine toasted volunteers with sparkling cider, her leadership as steady as ever. The Wonderbird ignited, wing LEDs shifting from gold to violet to ocean blue. Gasps rose. A projector illuminated petals with a quote, "Community is a garden, prune kindly, water generously, and let every blossom find its own sun." Quibble Gertie's eyes glistened. She hadn't known Celine planned that. Around her, neighbors, friends, echoed the words under their breath. Malik slipped an arm around her waist. "Ready for our tango?" In front of a cheering crowd, they danced on the clubhouse patio, roses painted by moonlight, teal lights flickering across polished shoes. As the final note lingered, Gertie glanced across the pool. A lone inflatable swan drifted, catching silver reflections. She smiled, not as a guardian of rigid codes but as a gardener of shared joy. Maple Hollow had discovered that order and color could coexist, each making the other richer. When the music resumed, she and Celine clinked glasses. "To teal swans," Celine said. "And to letting gardens, and people, grow," Gertie replied. Above them, the wonderbird spread radiant wings, eternal reminder that the most vibrant communities bloom where rules are tended with love and allowed to evolve, one float, one rose, one compromise at a time.